She thought she was just feeding a dying old man. She had no idea he was the billionaire's father, and that one small act would change her life forever. In the heart of bustling Makondo Town, where life surged through dusty markets and the hum of motorcycles filled the air, lived a young woman named Afiya. Just 22 years old, Afiya was a delivery girl for a small food joint called Mama Z's Kitchen. Her job was simple: pick up hot meals and deliver them to the customers scattered around the city. But what wasn't simple was the burden she carried, the pressure of being the only breadwinner for her sick mother and 2 younger siblings. Every morning, Afiya would tie her faded scarf tightly around her braided hair, wear her fraying red delivery jacket, and start her day with nothing but grit and a quiet prayer. She moved through the world like a whisper, unnoticed, uncelebrated, and yet deeply necessary. Her smile was soft, her eyes carried weight, and her feet, oh how they ached at the end of each day. But she never complained. Makondo was not kind to those who paused. It was a particularly hot Wednesday when the story began. Afiya had just delivered lunch to a government office when a new order came in. A long-distance delivery to a small house on the outskirts of town, right near the dry riverbank where the trees stood thin and the wind blew with a hint of desert dust. The location felt odd. People rarely ordered food out there. Still, a job was a job, and she hopped on her rickety bicycle, basket full of warm jollof rice and grilled chicken, and pedaled away. As Afiya arrived at the address, her brow furrowed. The house wasn't just old, it was crumbling. A lonely tin roof shack with peeling paint and broken windows, surrounded by unkempt weeds and silence. She got off her bike and knocked gently. No answer. She knocked again, harder. Still nothing. Just as she turned to leave, thinking it must have been a prank order, she heard a faint voice from inside. Dry, cracked like leaves rustling on dying branches. "Come in." Afiya hesitated, heart racing. Then she pushed the creaky door open. What she saw froze her in place. On the floor, barely breathing, was an old man, wrapped in tattered cloth. His skin was pale under his dark tone, the pale of sickness and neglect. His eyes, though dim, met hers with a mixture of pain and hope. There was no one else. No family, no helper, no nurse. Just him. A half-empty bottle of water lay beside him, and a walking stick lay snapped in two. "I haven't eaten." "In 3 days," he whispered. Afiya felt a lump rise in her throat. She quickly placed the food beside him and opened the container. "Uncle, eat this. Please." He reached out with shaking hands, and she fed him slowly, gently, spoon after spoon. The man didn't speak much. Only after he'd eaten half did he say his name was Baba Mosi, and that he was dying. Afiya didn't know what illness he had. Maybe heart, maybe lungs, maybe everything. But one thing was certain. If left alone, he wouldn't make it through the night. I have to go," Afiya said hesitantly. "My job." "They're waiting." The old man looked at her. "It's okay, child. Thank you for the food. You've done more than most." She took a step back. Then too. Her mind was torn. She needed the job. Her mother needed medicine tonight. Her siblings were waiting for supper. And if she missed 2 more deliveries, Mama Z might fire her. But how could she leave him? Her conscience screamed louder than her fears. She sighed, removed her delivery bag, and sat beside the old man. "I'll stay," she whispered. "Just for a while." That while turned into hours. Afiya cleaned the small shack using old rags, fetched water from a far-off tap, and tried to ease his breathing with wet cloths on his forehead. She made a makeshift pillow with her scarf, supporting his head. The sun began to set, casting long shadows on the dusty floor. Meanwhile, her phone kept buzzing. Missed calls. Angry texts from Mama Z. "You left work. For what?" "A stranger. You're done. Don't come back tomorrow." Afiya read the messages with a trembling hand, then turned off the phone. Baba Mosi stirred. "Why did you stay?" he asked. Afiya hesitated. "Because no one should die alone." He chuckled softly, then coughed, wincing. "You're a rare kind, child. People don't give without wanting something in return." She smiled faintly. Well, maybe I want the heavens to notice me. Silence followed. Then his hand slowly reached for hers. You remind me of someone I lost long ago. My daughter. She would have been your age. Afia didn't ask what happened. She simply held his hand tighter. What Afia didn't know was that someone was watching. Across the road, hidden behind the shade of a tamarind tree, sat a black SUV. Sleek, modern, and completely out of place in this forgotten part of town. Inside it was a man in a tailored suit, dark glasses, and a clenched jaw. His name was Tajiri Mosi, one of the richest men in Africa. A tech magnate, known for building empires and breaking rivals. But today he wasn't here as a billionaire. He was here as a son. The same son who had cut ties with his father years ago after a bitter family fallout. Tajiri hadn't spoken to Baba Mosi in over a decade. Success had taken him far away, into cities, into wealth, into loneliness. And now guilt had brought him back. A week ago, he'd hired a private investigator to locate his estranged father. And what he found crushed him. His father, once proud, strong and wise, was now living in a shack, barely surviving. Tajiri had come today to visit secretly, unsure if he'd have the courage to face him yet. But instead he saw her, the girl in the red jacket, sitting beside his dying father like a guardian angel. Tajiri's driver, an older man named Amos, turned to him. Sir. She's been with him all day. I can see that, Tajiri replied quietly. She could have left. But she didn't. No, Tajiri murmured. She didn't. As the night deepened, Afia found an old lamp and lit it with matches from the kitchen. The shadows danced on the wooden walls, and the air grew colder. She wrapped a blanket around Baba Mosi and herself, rubbing his back gently every now and then. Sleep, Baba. I'm here. I'm not afraid to die anymore, he whispered. Because someone cared enough to stay. Tears welled up in Afia's eyes. Not because of sadness but because in that moment her tired heart felt full. More than it had in years. Suddenly there was a soft knock on the door. She got up, unsure who would come here so late. When she opened it, a tall man in a dark suit stood there. His presence was imposing, but his expression was gentle. I'm looking for Baba Mosi, he said. Afia frowned. He's inside, but he's very weak. I know, the man replied. Then after a pause, I'm his son. Afia gasped slightly but moved aside. He's waiting for you, even if he doesn't know it yet. As Tajiri Mosi stepped into the dimly lit shack and saw the frail figure of his father, his heart shattered. But what struck him even more was the sight of the poor delivery girl, who had risked her job, her evening and her comfort, to stay with a stranger. What Afia didn't realize, even as she quietly packed her things to leave, was that her act of compassion had just changed everything. Because the old man she saved was about to change her life forever. Afia stepped outside the crumbling shack into the cool night air. Her hands were numb, her mind spinning, and her heart conflicted. She had done what felt right. Stayed with a dying stranger. But now she had no job, no income, and a long journey home. Still she felt no regret. As she walked toward her bicycle, the suited man stepped back out. Wait. She turned slowly. Please, he said. Don't leave yet. I should. He needs you now. You're his son. I know. But I also know he wouldn't have made it tonight without you. Afia remained quiet. Her tired eyes said everything. She wasn't looking for thanks, just peace. I'm Tajiri, he said softly. Tajiri Mosi. Her breath caught. You mean, the billionaire? He gave a sad smile. That title never meant much to him. He just wanted his son back. Afia looked at him, eyes wide. I didn't know. I just saw a man who needed help. That's what makes you rare. Inside, Baba Mosi was awake. He saw his son approach, and for a moment time froze. Look at you, the old man whispered, tears sliding down his wrinkled face. still wearing pride like armor. Tajiri knelt beside him. "I'm sorry, Baba. For everything." Afiya quietly watched from the door as father and son wept and embraced, not with words, but with a kind of silence that healed broken years. Afiya sat on a wooden bench outside Mama Z's kitchen, head bowed, hoping to plead for her job back. She hadn't eaten in a day. Her siblings were surviving on borrowed kindness, and her mother's medication was running out. Mama Z came out, arms crossed. "So, you finally show your face." "I know I messed up," Afiya said. "But it was an emergency. I don't run a charity, girl. I run a business." A black SUV pulled up just then, and two well-dressed men stepped out. "Is there an Afiya here?" one of them asked. She stood unsure. "We've come on behalf of Mr. Tajiri Mosi." Mama Z's mouth dropped open. Afiya looked like she'd seen a ghost. Inside the SUV, they handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten by Tajiri. "Dear Afiya, you saved the only family I had left. I owe you more than words can say. You were willing to lose everything just to keep a stranger alive. That kind of heart is priceless. Enclosed you will find a permanent job offer. Executive Coordinator at Mosi Foundation. A scholarship to study nursing if you still dream of helping others. A fully furnished house for your family in town. And most importantly, a lifelong friendship, mine. You gave my father dignity in his final hours. Now allow me to give you the life you've always deserved. With deep gratitude. Tajiri Mosi." Afiya stared at the letter, tears flowing freely now. The world blurred as the paper trembled in her hands. Makondo Town buzzed with whispers. "The delivery girl. You mean she works for the billionaire now? Have you seen the new clinic she helped build? They say she saved Tajiri Mosi's father with just her kindness." But Afiya never let the attention change her. She still visited Mama Z sometimes, but now as a donor, not a worker. She still pedaled through town. Only now, her bike was a sleek scooter gifted by the foundation. And every week, she visited the orphanage, feeding children with the same care she had given to Baba Mosi. Under the wide sky of Makondo, where baobab trees stretched toward the heavens and drums echoed during festivals, a statue was unveiled in the heart of the city square. It wasn't of Tajiri Mosi, or a president, or a war hero. It was a statue of Afiya, holding a food basket in one hand and reaching out with the other. At the base, the words were carved in gold. "Kindness is never small. It saves more than lives. It saves souls." Tajiri stood beside her at the unveiling, smiling. "You were once invisible, Afiya." She laughed gently. "Not anymore. No. Now, the whole world sees you. But more importantly, they're learning from you." A poor girl gave up her job to save a stranger, and found a destiny richer than gold. In a world full of noise, her quiet choice echoed the loudest.